What is going on, guys? Gaston right here from Miami, Florida to the world, and let's talk about the brand new Apsc camera from Sony, the Sony A6900. No, that's not going to be the name, guys. So today we're going to share the brand new name of this camera, some of the features, the body of the camera, and most importantly, how much this camera is going to cost you. So if you've been looking for more info regarding this brand new Apsc camera from Sony, stick around, all that information coming right up. And welcome back to the channel, guys. Let's talk about the Sony ZV E10. Yes, that's gonna be the brand new name of this new Apsc camera. And we have heard this before because we have the Sony ZV1, a camera that shares a lot of the properties from the RX100 Mark VII. Now, that camera doesn't have an EVF, and Sony marketed it as a vlogger friendly or vlogger dedicated. Then they released another camera using a full frame sensor that shares a lot of the same feature specs from the Sony A7 III. That one is the Sony A7C, which is this one right here. And now we are going to have an Apsc camera also dedicated for vloggers. So Sony has a 1-inch sensor, a full frame sensor, and now an Apsc sensor dedicated to vloggers. Now let's talk about some of the specs of the camera, because this camera is going to share apparently the same guts of the Sony A6600. And the Sony A6600 is a camera that right now is going to cost you at around $1,300. And Sony is going to repackage in a way, remove some of the features, add some features, and make her vlogger friendly. So what are those features that they're going to take away, and what are some of those enhancements that they're going to add to this camera? Well, let's talk about the body of this camera first, because the Sony A6600 is actually a small body. It's actually smaller than the Sony A7C. And, I'm going to be comparing three cameras right now, the ZV1, the Sony A5000, and the Sony A6600. You can see this graphic right now, because it is said that this body, this brand new body, is going to be closer to the A5000 than it is to the A6600. And if you actually look at this graphic, the Sony A5000 features smaller body than the Sony 6600, and it looks a little bit closer than the Sony ZV1. Between the ZV1 and A5000, pretty much you're talking about almost the same real estate. So Sony is going to be packing an Apsc sensor and all the features from the Sony A6600 in a much smaller body. And I've heard this before, that people wish that Sony can make cameras smaller, with Apsc sensor. And in my prior video, actually 2 videos ago, I actually discussed that it would be nice if Sony makes an Apsc camera like the Ryko GR3. I think that, small sometimes is better, pocketable. But this one is going to have a mount, so, probably the pocketability is going to be limited for the type of lens that you're going to be carrying with you. So what are some of the features that they are going to remove, that they are going to maintain, and those that they are going to upgrade? Well, let's talk about the first one that they're going to be removing completely, and that's going to be the EVF. They have done the same thing with the Sony ZV1. It doesn't have an EVF. This camera is not going to have an EVF. And I think that this is going to give Sony the opportunity to make the body a little bit smaller just because of that alone. Now, regarding what they're going to keep in this camera, it looks like all the guts are going to be the same. So we're talking about the same video codecs, we're talking about the same still capabilities in the camera, and we're talking about the same 24 megapixel sensor that Sony has been using now for ages. So I think that the A6600 has pretty decent features. It's a solid camera. It's not the cheapest camera out there, and this one is going to have pretty much the same minus the EVF. And now we're going to have a flip to the side screen. And we don't know if we're going to have the touchscreen capabilities on the camera. Probably they won't do that because they haven't done it in the ZV1, they haven't done it in the Sony A7C. And this touchscreen capability is something that we only have seen in the much more expensive cameras, such as the Sony A7 III and the Sony A1. So, while I want to see that feature in this version, most likely it's not going to happen. And I think it's a missed opportunity, because if this is going to be a vlogging dedicated camera, let the user, control the camera from the front, change, the shutter speed, the aperture, and the ISO. That will be actually really, really good. Now let's talk about some of the features that are going to be improved in this body. And one is going to be the image stabilization. It is said that this camera is going to have an improved image stabilization. Also, we're going to have active image stabilization, and this camera is going to be able to record gyro data, so we can actually stabilize the footage in post using Catalyst Browse. Now, the Sony A6600, a camera that costs you once again $1,300, doesn't have a rock solid image stabilization, nor the active image stabilization, nor can record gyro data. So this is going to be pretty good because, you know, having a smaller body with much more capable ibis capability is going to be a deal maker for a lot of vloggers out there or content creators. And I think the Sony is going, you know, towards the right path with these features. Now let's talk about the price of this camera, because this one is going to make a lot of people happy and may upset a lot of people that have bought a Sony A6600 recently for vlogging work. And the price of this camera is going to be $899. Now remember, apparently the features are going to be almost the same, aside that we are not going to have an EVF, and we are going to have the Apsc when it comes to image stabilization for a lot less money. So $1,300 versus $900, you know, we're talking about $1,400 of difference, and with that money you can go and buy a brand new lens, or maybe a couple of used, you know, Sigma lenses, such as the 30 millimeters and the 56 millimeter, or the 16 millimeters if you want something wide for vlogging. So that's actually going to be really good, guys. You know, it sounds like a really exciting camera. I think that a lot of people wanting to vlog are not going to care for an EVF. They're much going to care for better image stabilization and the flip to the side. And I'm sure the camera is going to have some of, you know, the new configurations, such as the bigger button at the top for record, and who knows what else they're going to do in the back of the camera. So are you excited about this release? Let me know in the comments down below, guys, and I'll continue to report regarding this camera until the camera launches. Until then, see you in the next video.